Husky's Pest Control. Put your birds on the run. Call 205-470-8161.
So thankfully, here in Alabama, the weather is getting cooler. Thankfully. This is my favorite time of the year. It's fall. Leaves are falling. It's chilly when you wake up. It's chilly when when it starts to get dark in the evening. It's just my favorite time of the year. I love the whole Halloween thing and all that. However,
washing your car super hard though.
It does. And it does make washing your vehicles difficult. But not everybody obsesses over washing their vehicles like some people. So not going to say any names. But anyway, unfortunately though, with that cooler weather, with those other fall temperatures coming in, wildlife begin looking for somewhere to stay. And unfortunately, that can push people to have unwanted visitors in spots of their house, in outbuildings, in areas of their house like their attic. A lot of times, all of a sudden, they'll have no problem, and then all of a sudden, there will be some loud noise, thump in the attic, scratching at all hours of the day or night. And one of those animals in particular that really likes to take up harborage in an attic is a raccoon.
Yeah, it's the perfect place for a raccoon. I mean, you've got insulation, and most of the time it's going to be blown in insulation. There's plenty of space. They don't have to worry about any kind of predators. It's perfect for them. So the biggest thing here that really we want to get across is a raccoon cannot gain access to your roof line without having an access area to that roof line. And what I mean by that is a tree. Really, I think a tree is probably 100% the only way I've seen a raccoon gain access to the roof line. And that could be a tree that's 2 feet away from the house. I mean, they can jump, they can leap. Another way that we see it is the decorative wrought iron support that's holding the garage up or something of that nature. They can climb up it, and occasionally a chimney. So the biggest thing is just keeping all the tree branches cut away from that roof line is going to stop that raccoon from gaining access.
Yeah, that's essential for any wildlife control, and especially in the case of raccoons. I mean, a full-grown raccoon is not some little small animal. That's a pretty decent-sized animal. And like you said, it's not, they're not going to be able to climb up the side of brick, but given a tree, given, decorative pillars, wrought iron pillars up underneath carports, like you said, those kind of things, they're going to gain access. But I have yet to see a raccoon get into an attic that didn't have a way to climb up a tree. Like you said, that's usually 9 times out of 10, that's what it's going to be. And that tree can either butt right up against the side of the house close to the eaves, or that tree can be, I've seen them climb up a tree that's all the way, probably 15, 20, 25 feet away from the house in the yard. But because the branches overhang towards the roof, that raccoon has an easy way to get in. And I've got some really cool photos to show to kind of give people an idea. It doesn't take a very large access point for these raccoons to get in. This customer who I'm going to show you the photos of in particular of their house, they called me one day and they said, "Hey, we have started to hear some kind of craziness in the attic. It's loud noises. It's usually at night, just thumping and scratching. Most specifically right above our son's room." So it's like really, just really this great opportunity for their 5-year-old to be freaked out at night because of noises in the attic. So they called.
Perfect time for Halloween.
Exactly right. So they called me, and I went up and looked, and it took me about 30 seconds of being in the attic to go, okay, I know exactly what this is, because there were droppings and there were just indicators of a raccoon. So immediately turned around and left the attic because, of course, we operate during the daytime. Raccoons operate at night. And if raccoons have found a nice place to stay, they're usually there in the daytime, sleeping and waiting for their nocturnal senses to kick in. So I didn't want to, exactly. But I didn't want to meet a raccoon in the attic. If you've ever seen their claws, it's kind of like razor blades. So, long story short, it took a little while to catch this one. He avoided my traps for quite a while, actually. And then, early one morning, we were getting up, getting ready for the day, ready to get the kids off to school and that sort of thing. And my game camera had caught motion in the attic, and I was like, finally, he has decided to mess with the cage. And so when I checked my game camera, this is what I saw.
So cute.
They really are, especially the baby ones. Everybody thinks the baby ones are super cute. But that is actually a very vicious, mean little creature right there. Most people don't understand that. So we got a couple of photos of him. He did kind of was a little wary of the trap at first. Kind of see he sniffed around it for a little while before he decided he wanted to go in. But finally, by 9:00 that night, he was caught. So, and then that next morning I woke up. Before I saw these photos, I had text messages from my customer that said, "Hey, he's in the attic still, and it sounds like he's tearing something apart." Well, he was actually banging on this cage, trying to figure out how to get the door open. So, they're again right above their son's room. So it was just a great night for them. I said, "Well, don't worry, because it's going to be a lot quieter after this." But so in trying to figure out where this raccoon got into this house, I had an idea. There was a tree that I figured was kind of the access point onto the roof, but I was still hunting, trying to find out where this raccoon was actually getting into the attic at. And I had looked all the way around the roof line, looking for gaps. And finally, after I had caught him and removed him, I went and kind of explored a little further in the attic, and I finally found where he was getting into. So, attics have these vents on top, of course, for, release heat from the attic space and cool the house off. But from the inside, you finally could see he actually tore the mesh out of that attic vent and was able to get in and out of the attic through that little gap right there, which isn't really all that big.
And I'll say this, I mean, that's factory mesh that they put on all of those vents. That took him, what, Travis, less than a second, 2 seconds to get through that right there?
I mean, if that, as you can see towards the actual mesh itself that's closer to the top portion of that vent. I mean, it's kind of just sitting there. It's secured to those to a couple of points, but realistically, all that raccoon had to figure out to do was just to push it inward on itself and go from there. And you can actually see the brackets hanging down. So there at one point was some sort of ventilation fan that was housed in that was removed, obviously. So without that ventilation fan being in there, he had free access.
That's correct. Well, I mean, and we see it all the time. I mean, chimney vents that aren't properly secured, vents that aren't properly secured. I've seen them rip off the one to the right there, that big vent. I've seen them completely rip that off the entire house and crawl through the hole there. Once they're on the attic, I mean, they're tough, so they can chew through that roofing shingles, and then right into the plywood, and then they've got themselves a nice little hole. And as you can see in the picture, it doesn't take much of an opening for them to get into. Just from experience, I would say the size of a grapefruit typically is what they can fit through. And I know we were talking about how they get onto the roof. One other thing I'll add is that I have seen a few times where they can climb up a gutter. That is a Rambo style raccoon. It's pretty rare to see that. If they are gaining access to the house from the gutter, they have to be trapped, and they have to be removed. And some raccoons are smarter than others. It's pretty rare. We don't see that very often, but it does happen.
I'm glad you said that, though. These animals, they're very intelligent. The ones that I have actually caught, if you watch them, they realize, for one, of course, they realize they've been caught. But if you watch them, their hands, or their paws, if you will, basically have a thumb. I mean, they literally, I've sat and watched the raccoon. They know where they got caught at, so they saw that the trap door fell down on the cage. And so they're literally reaching outside of the gap, trying to figure out exactly what they can grab to open that cage door. And, it's kind of creepy when they're sitting there watching you from inside the cage. It's like they're trying to read you, like they're trying to figure out what it is you are, or what it is that you're going to do to them, or how can they get one over on you. But I'm going to tell you, anyone who encounters one of those creatures needs to stay away. There was a commercial, I don't remember if it was an auto insurance commercial or an eye care commercial, or it may have been an eye care commercial. But there's a lady that lets her cat out in the backyard at night, to go out to use the restroom or what have you. And her vision is obviously not very good, as the commercial implies, because she's like, all right, kitty, come on back in. And it shows, and she's letting a raccoon into the house, She's like, good kitty, But
Well, so something else I'll say about raccoons, going back on what you cute, cuddly. I had a customer one time that was feeding raccoons. She was feeding them on her back porch with dog food. She told us about it while we were doing her quarterly pest control. We recommended to stop doing that. She did not stop doing that. We got a call about a month later. She now had raccoons in her attic. She had raccoons in her house. They were actually going through the doggy door. They had busted through the plastic doggy door cover and were inside of her house in her kitchen. So It's a wild animal. They look cute. They are not pets, and they are extremely dangerous.
They are. One of the points where I've trapped a raccoon, I went to go grab the raccoon, and thankfully these traps have some very tight mesh together, tight metal together, so, they can't reach through it. But within the blink of an eye, within the time that it took me to reach out my hand and grab the handle of this cage, the raccoon snarled at me and tried to basically bite me through the cage. And like I said, it was within the blink of an eye. It was so fast. So this is not a creature that like you said, you don't want to be feeding them and attracting them to your residence. There's already enough out there to attract them to your residence. Like I said, if you have domesticated animals that you feed, dogs and cats, garbage cans, waste piles, compost piles, there's enough out there to attract these animals without you helping them along.
Definitely. And that's another thing as far as the tree branch removal, overflowing trash cans, any kind of food source that's going to bring them in, like you said, dog food on the porch. It's going to attract them towards your house, and eventually they're going to try to find a way, because now they've got a food source around the house, so now they need a den around that house, because the food, we live where we eat. They're basically the same way. Now they've got it, easy pickings from where they're going to sleep to where they're going to eat.
Exactly. Yeah. So definitely don't feed them, and don't make it easy on them to gain access, because they will find a way inside if they really want to. And then that just creates a very unsanitary situation, up in your attic, and then a very dangerous situation as well.
Definitely. One thing I'll say too is rabies right now in Alabama is running rampant. I know in the last podcast I talked about it. They are dropping rabies blocks out of the sky in helicopters in Birmingham. I'm in Bluff Park, Hoover. They're dropping them out of the sky, trying to get rabies under control right now, because it's something that's just kind of growing into a lot more than they thought it would. So
that's actually statewide too. That actually, before Birmingham, they were doing that down in South Alabama, closer to the Mobile area. Like you said, airplanes and helicopters, and they were dropping these blocks out to basically try to combat it with the wildlife population. So it's definitely statewide.
Yeah. So with that being said, if you see one in the daytime around your house, or in your house, and they're acting any kind of strange anyway, especially in the daytime, because raccoons are nocturnal. They shouldn't be just tromping around in the daytime around the outside of the house or anything like that. Just stay away from it. Call a professional. I would recommend not doing a raccoon removal yourself anyway. That cage that Travis posted up on the picture, that's a special design cage for inside of an attic, really anywhere, but it's really designed for a roof. If you put a regular cage that's got, a larger opening, they're going to claw your roof all the way down to where light is going to be able to pass through your roof. That one right there is tight knit. They can't claw through it. So just using the right equipment to do the job, it's just better to call a professional.
Good Google Pesky's Pest Control. Put your bugs on the run. Call 205-470